Let me tell you something that I find genuinely fascinating and kind of unsettling about professional tennis. It doesn't wait for you, not for 1 minute, not for 1 hour. And what happened in Rome this week is a perfect illustration of that brutal reality. Amanda Anisimova, seeded 6th at the Italian Open, was 1 hour away from stepping onto court against Jelena Ostapenko when the news started filtering out. She wouldn't be playing, left wrist injury. And then 30 minutes before the scheduled match time, the tournament published their official statement on X. Amanda Anisimova has withdrawn due to a left wrist injury. Elena Gabriela Ruse takes her place in the draw as a lucky loser. We wish Amanda a speedy recovery. That's it. That's the statement. Clean, clinical, and honestly kind of heartbreaking when you understand the full picture. Now, I want to be careful here because I've seen a lot of hot takes flying around about this, and I think most of them are missing the real story. Let's actually dig into what this withdrawal means, not just on the surface, but technically, physically, and strategically for Anisimova going forward. First, I noticed something important about the timing. The reports of her withdrawal were circulating among tennis fans about an hour before the match. The official statement came 30 minutes before. That gap matters. That tells me this wasn't a sudden warm up room decision. When a player withdraws that close to match time with that kind of lead up, it usually means one of two things. Either the injury genuinely deteriorated in the hours leading up to the match and the physio made the final call, or, and this is my honest read, Anisimova had been managing this wrist issue for longer than we knew. She played, she got through warm up, and at some point before she walked out that gate, the body said no. Here's what I want you to understand about a left wrist injury for a right handed player like Anisimova. This isn't just about pain management. The left wrist for a right handed player is your non dominant arm, your balance arm, your toss arm for the serve, and critically, your stabilizing arm through the kinetic chain on the two handed backhand. And Anisimova's backhand is not a one hander. She uses both hands, which means that left wrist is absorbing real force, real torque on every single backhand she hits. On clay, with the slower bounce and heavier ball coming through, those forces are amplified. This is not the surface you want to be testing a compromised wrist on. I've watched Anisimova's mechanics closely over the past couple of years, and what makes her dangerous, really dangerous, is her combination of early racket preparation and explosive hip rotation. That kinetic chain from the ground up through the hips, the torso, the shoulders, and out through both wrists on that backhand is dependent on every link being healthy. You pull one weak link, in this case the left wrist, and the whole chain loses its snap. She would have been hitting at maybe 60-70% power and risk tolerance on that shot. Against Ostapenko, that's not a viable game plan. Speaking of Ostapenko, let's talk about what this actually means for her. Because I think there's a temptation to write off lucky losers, to see them as undeserving beneficiaries of someone else's bad luck. But Jelena Ostapenko is not a player you do that with. She's ranked outside the top 20 right now, but I've been watching this woman play for years, and I can tell you her ranking is genuinely misleading. She won Roland Garros in 2017 as an unseeded player. She's a former top 5. She has one of the most destructive flat ball strikes on the women's tour, particularly on clay, where players expect to have more time to reset. Ostapenko does not give you that time. She hits through the ball before you're ready. This is a player who, on her best day, can dismantle a seeded player in under an hour. And now she gets a free pass into the second round. Now, here's where I want to bring it back to Anisimova because the broader context of her 2025 season is something I keep coming back to. She reached two Grand Slam finals last year. Two. That's an enormous achievement, a level that put her right in the conversation about the top tier of women's tennis. But this year, across 7 WTA events, she's only reached the semi-final stage once. Once. That's a significant dip, and I don't think it's purely a form issue. I think there's been a physical story running underneath this season that we're only now seeing properly surfaced. When you're managing a wrist injury, even a minor one, as a professional tennis player, the mental cost is as real as the physical cost. Every practice session becomes a question. Every serve, every backhand, every net cord that sends a vibration up into that joint, you feel it. And that constant awareness, that low level anxiety about your own body, it eats into your confidence and your willingness to go for shots. You start making safer decisions. You stop loading up on the backhand the way you normally would. Your opponents start winning balls they shouldn't be winning. And gradually, without anyone quite understanding why, your results soften. I'm not saying that's definitely what happened with Anisimova this season. I don't have access to her medical records. But the pattern, reaching two slam finals, then a quiet first half of 2025, then a late withdrawal from Rome citing the left wrist, that pattern tells a story. And I think we owe it to her to read that story with some empathy before we start asking what went wrong with her game. What I'm watching for now is the timeline of her recovery. Clay season is not going to wait. Roland Garros is the target, the one Grand Slam where she's shown she can go deep and go deep consistently. If this wrist issue is something that needs 2 3 weeks of rest and physiotherapy, she might still arrive in Paris with enough match practice from Madrid and the lead up tournaments to be dangerous. If it's more serious than that, if there are concerns about the joint itself, about the tendons or the ligament integrity, then we are looking at a different conversation entirely. But I'll say this, and this is my honest opinion after watching her for years. Amanda Anisimova has the kind of ball striking that doesn't really deteriorate. It's not a game built on grinding and retrieving. It's a game built on timing, on clean contact, on seeing the ball early and meeting it at the right point. That kind of game can come back quickly when the physical foundation is healthy. She is not rebuilding a style, she is waiting for her body to let her use it again. The Italian Open did everything right in terms of their communication. The statement was clear, it was swift given the circumstances, they wished her well, and they had a lucky loser system in place to fill the draw without a walkover. That's how these things should work. I don't have any issue with the tournament's handling of this at all. What I do think deserves more attention is the broader question of how women's tennis manages player health across a calendar that has never been more demanding. Anisimova is 23 years old. She has the talent to win majors. The sport cannot afford to lose that for the sake of a cluttered schedule and pressure to perform in every event. But that's a conversation for another video. And trust me, we are going to have that conversation. For now, I genuinely wish Amanda Anisimova